Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Genuine Chit-Chat. This week is the 50th episode. Yay! Now, as most of you are aware, this isn't actually the 50th release because there's a lot of podcasts I do that I split into two, but this is the 50th own one. So yeah, 50th episode. Huzzah! What we've decided to do is do a collaboration with the Crazy Train podcast. Now, the Crazy Train podcast is a part of Emotionally 14. Two of Emotionally 14's other podcasts is the E14 Gamecast and Talk Star Wars. Now, essentially all we did is we decided to chat over Skype and we chatted for over 2 hours. And the Crazy Train is much like some of the podcasts I've done in the past with Bradley, with my friend Johnny. Before Christmas, I did one with my friend TJ and called like TJ Ramble or something. Basically just the kind of podcasts where I don't have a specific structure or anything specifically to talk about. You just enter the conversation and just start chatting and see where it kind of takes you. And that's precisely what we did this time. Now, this is part 2 of this chat. You can find part 1 on the Crazy Train's feed. I've included a link in the description, but if you just type in the Crazy Train into any of your podcatcher apps, you should be able to find it. It'll be their most recent episode, as of recording this, which I believe is number 77, but it says Mike from Genuine Chit-Chat in there, so it's not very hard to find. Now, obviously, you don't have to go over to Crazy Train and listen to part 1 of this chat. I recommend it. It's good for their show. It's good for this show. And, you know, if you like Genuine Chit-Chat and you like a lot more of the sort of comedic episodes where we're just chatting about this, that, and the other, then the Crazy Train is a great podcast to check out as well. Now, in part 1 of the chat, so if you go over and find out from them, you'll hear there's a lot of talks about movies, including ones like The Meg and The Room and one called Monster Brawl. We speak about how I kind of got into podcasting and where the name Genuine Chit-Chat came from. We talk about the Great Laptop Burial, so be sure to check that out. YouTube and a few other things, basically what I did before podcasting, my experience a little bit in that sort of stuff, and then just kind of movies and this, that, and the other. I mean, as I say, it's kind of hard to choose because, you know, every few minutes the topic kind of changes. Now, in this chat, obviously, it continues the sort of sporadic subject matter, but we speak about the death of Toys R Us, as well as Nicolas Cage's acting. We talk about Star Wars for a little bit, and we talk about what constitutes milking a franchise, as well as merchandising, and we speak about Harry Potter and minute-by-minute movie review podcasts. You know, they basically do minute by minute and they talk about it for like 20 minutes. We talk about that a little bit. We talk about how much hard work it is doing a podcast, as well as how important collaborations are and things. We talk about toxic fandoms and sort of trying to keep fans happy and things. You know, Star Wars, the conversation about Star Wars kind of comes off that essentially. And we talk about buying things and loads of other stuff. You know, I'm not going to bore you with too many other details or I'll just be chatting this entire time and it'll be far too much of a long intro. So yeah. Now, before the chat gets properly started, there's a promo for the Show Me Your Playlist podcast, so be sure to check those guys out. And that's about it, guys. So, you know, thank you for anyone who's been listening, whether this is your first time or you've come from Emotionally 14, or if you've just stumbled onto this, or if you've been listening for a long time. Thank you very much. You know, I really appreciate everyone who listens to this. It makes doing this much more satisfying and fun, you know, having more and more people listen. And as I always say, if you like this, you know, review on iTunes, that sort of jazz, but also share on social media, because this show may not be everyone's cup of tea 100% of the time, but I'm sure there'll be at least one episode that someone you know will enjoy, so any sharing of this show is always appreciated. Anyway, after the promo, the full chat will start, and then I'll be back at the end to give some more information on future episodes. So thanks for listening as always, guys, and I'll talk to you all at the end.
Do you make playlists? Of course you do, and so do I. I'm Katie Kruger, and Show Me Your Playlist is the podcast where I sit down and talk to a new guest each week that has something to say and a playlist to share. Get inspired and find new music each week. Follow us on Instagram at Show Me Your Playlist, and don't forget to listen to Show Me Your Playlist on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Welcome to Genuine Chit-Chat, where we have honest conversations with interesting people. And I'm your host, Mike Burton. Well, yeah, it's also, if you give him a shit gift that at least he can play with, at least he can fuck off for a while. We can have some peace.
Exactly. So, it's like, oh, PlayStation 2, amazing. How did you know? It's like, we didn't. We just assumed it would make you fuck off for the next 6 years. It's like,
let's just hope, but then at Christmas, we can just get drunk and not have to worry about you anymore.
Exactly. And I mean, they certainly seem to go down that route a few times for Christmas. So,
and that's why you've got Papa PlayStation. Exactly.
Now I've kind of kept it. It's like anytime I think my parents are stressed, I go out and buy a console. It's weird. Just run out of room.
Yeah, just stacked to the walls of them. Just like
exactly. Yeah, just boxes and boxes of the fucking things. I forget.
Crying.
How the hell am I going to store these damn things?
Don't worry about that. Just buy another one.
I realized I'm getting old. Like the other day, and this kind of it ties into it because I realized that one of the things I'm getting old about is I don't buy things if I can't think of where I'm going to keep them anymore. And when I was younger, I didn't think about those things. I just bought stuff I liked. But now, I mean, it's kind of nice for my budget because it means I'm not just spunking money up the wall like a giant 9-year-old. But it means that, I go into like the Entertainer and it's like, Star Wars Black Series figures half price. I'm like, amazing. They've got Lando. I want Lando. But where the fuck am I going to keep Lando? And I don't buy Lando. And it's Lando.
It's Lando Calrissian.
Like I feel like if I don't buy it, I'm racist. This is the world I've been conditioned into.
Well, in all the Star Wars trilogies, there's just one token black guy,
Yeah,
which is really funny. It's really funny because you got the prequels, you've got Samuel Jackson / Mace Windu. Originals, Billy Williams and Lando.
And then you got Hugh Quashie as Captain Panaka in the prequels, but he's kind of in one film and then doesn't turn up ever again.
Yeah, we don't really need him anymore,
Mace Windu for too much money.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, that happened in The Matrix, right? Didn't they kill a character off because the actor was like, this is a big film. I know what I'm worth this time. And they were like, no, you fucking don't.
Yeah, no, I think he was with Phantom Menace. I think, Captain Panaka asked for too much money, going, they can't kill off Captain Panaka.
And then obviously
the very first scene of episode 2, boom.
Not only can we shall, and we'll make it really, really big, really, really early on. Like it's the first. Yeah. In fact, it's basically the first thing in the film. I wonder if that was like when they sat in the script, in the script writing, the first read of the script. George was like, right, so the first thing I made sure to do was kill off Captain Panaka so we don't have to deal with this shit anymore.
Yeah. And not only to make it worse, we're going to make it really obvious it's not the same actor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just some dude. It's fine. Nobody will know. Nobody will care. To be fair, Captain Panaka is not exactly the kind of character I would imagine was flying off the shelves at like toy shops.
No, probably not. I mean,
no. It's like, Daddy, I want the sort of, the perfectly functional guard of the Queen. Like, don't you just want the Queen? No. I really will just want her admin stuff.
We're going to be really bad with it. You say, the black guy in Star Wars. What, the one with the gun? No, the one who can do magic. It's like, you know what I mean? It's just that sort of thing.
You just have the choice. That's your lot, I'm afraid.
Yeah. He probably still outsold Chancellor Valorum there.
I would imagine the Chancellor Valorum action figures are not. They're probably peg warmers even now, 20 years later.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like if you go into the right comic shop, you can probably still find one, like brand new, just mint on card, like 50p. And when you look closer at the label, it's like, we'll give you 50p to take it.
Please.
Yeah, exactly. We've got fucking boxes of Rogue One stuff in the back. We can't put it out. He's just warmed every single peg. We thought there'd be a bigger uptake on Chancellor Valorum action figures, and we fill their entire fucking warehouse with them.
I should have got the Toys R Us when it was shutting down.
Yeah, well,
I thought about that.
Oh, that was sad. I was thinking about it, like, why was it so sad? And I think
they had to put down the giraffe. That's what's so upsetting about it.
That is pretty upsetting because, like, you keep hearing about how they're fucking endangered, and you're like, well, make your mind up. But I think one of the reasons it was sad for me is like our local Toys R Us. Blake, I know you've been to it. Mike, you may have like an equivalent. Like you may have had an equivalent.
Southampton, we have a proper big one right next to the train station, like the centre of town. So
there you go. So
it's actually used as reference point for a lot of the city. So
yeah, I'll meet you outside Toys R Us. Okay, cool.
Toys R Us. Wait, I'll meet you by the train station. What, the Toys R Us side or the little subway side? It's Toys R Us.
Okay, yeah. Well, why would somebody choose the little subway side given those two options? It's like you could really easily miss a little subway, whereas Toys R Us is fucking enormous.
Yeah, it is. The Toys R Us there is colossal. I don't really know what they're doing with it now, but there's also like a colossal car park in front of it now as well. So
yeah, it's just like. But the reason I think it was sad for me to not only to find out it was closing, but also to go in there nearer the time it's shut. I think the reason is because a lot of shops over time, even if they stay the same chain, they refurbish and they lay things out differently, and they change the way the shelving's organized. And so you walk in and it's a completely different layout and you have to get used to it and stuff. The Toys R Us near me never did that. Not once. And it was always exactly the same layout. The only thing that was different was what was on the shelves. And I think because it had been that kind of fixture of my childhood and it looked exactly the same as it did then, it was doubly sad because I kind of walked in and was like, oh shit, like this is really fucking depressing. Yeah, because it's all kind of gone. There was like, I think there were maybe 24 items on the shelves by the end.
Yeah.
And it was, and funnily enough, it was a General Hux action figure, which I ended up buying because I thought my friend collects and I thought he needed one. And then I messaged him and I didn't get a reply. So I was like, fuck it, it's £4. I'll take the punt just in case. And he messaged me about 10 minutes after I got out of the shop saying, oh, I got one, but thank you for checking. Like, well, I can't return this. It's Toys R fucking Us. They're shutting down in a week's time. Like they're going to I could be less offensive by walking in and just spitting in the face of a random staff member at this point, rather than going in and trying to return my £4 3¾ General Hux. I've kept it in the end. I've still got it, mint on card. I expect it to be worth money, never.
It depends. Anyone suddenly, if in the 9th film Hux is suddenly a badass, but I think we could all see he's going to be even more.
I really hope he is, because I loved him in episode 7.
I think he's fantastic as a character.
He is good. Yeah.
I think he's absolutely brilliant as a character, and I think the whole dynamic with him and Kylo Ren, like trying to impress Snoke.
There's so much potential there. There's so much potential for episode 9 for that. Just so much. Yeah. But I feel like they'll fuck it up. I don't know.
I think there was. I think it's too much hype. I think it's just one of those things where, like, I mean, Force Awakens had a huge amount of hype, but most people are just kind of like, yeah, it was a good movie. It's a bit too similar to the other ones, but it's still really good. And then Last Jedi, everyone was like, it's way too different. It's crap. And it's like, I'm not saying it's a perfect movie by any stretch, but like, it's like this thing of like, there's the people who hate Star Wars more than anyone else is Star Wars fans because they're just never fucking happy.
What's that? The Simpsons meme where it's like Groundskeeper Willie going, "Damn Star Wars fans, you ruined Star Wars."
Yeah.
Man. I mean, I can certainly see where that would start. You know, where that would start bleeding through. You know, like it's pretty. They're not the easiest. I think fandoms in general are probably the hardest people to please of any fans. They're just, the fandom is the place where the worst kind of, it's not the worst. I don't want to say worse, like they're horrible people, because they're not. They're just very, 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 very particular about what they like. Like, you know, there was, so I say, to touch back on wrestling, there was the Royal Rumble was the day before yesterday, Sunday night into Monday for us in the UK. And, you know, the number of threads that were like, the only reason they were happy was because precisely the people they wanted to win the Royal Rumble won the Royal Rumble. Any other result out of 30 people would have been a riot. It's just like it's really like, I don't think people who really want these things they want these particular characters to be pushed. If they got what they wanted completely all the time, they'd find something else to complain about. Well, there's only so many belts to go around.
Well, that's what Force Awakens was. Force Awakens was because obviously everyone said about the prequels is like, oh, it's too different, too weird. There's too many crazy characters that are shit. There's too much dialogue that's pithy, unnecessary, and badly written. So they were like, okay, we'll do the safe option. We'll do a story that's pretty similar. It's fairly predictable, but it's got, you know, quips in it and good dialogue and everything's very visually stunning. And then it was like, this is boring and predictable. It's like, okay, we'll do Last Jedi, which is so unpredictable that it literally more happened in that film than almost any trilogy put together. And they was like, oh no, shit. It's like, why is it shit? It was because Luke wasn't the way I liked him in Legends. It's like, yes, because this isn't fucking Legends.
No, it was like they deliberately made that Legends so they could tell these stories. And like, you can, you know, if you want, like, this is the thing. If people want to kind of have a discussion about what they would have liked to see instead, that's fine. But, you know, there's a reason they made those choices. It's so they could tell new stories in place. Because if, I've often said this about like when they adapt video games into films, it's the most thankless job you can possibly do, because the hardcore fans of the games are going to go, boring, I know this already. And then the people who, if you make it too far removed, the people who love the games are going to be like, this is not, you might as well have not bothered. It's not an adaptation at all. It's like, make your fucking mind up. Like, there's no winning, you know? So I can appreciate way more a video game adaptation that just doesn't blow chunks. If it's just not complete shit, I'm generally pretty content.
Speaking of that, have you two seen the Assassin's Creed movie?
No, but I've heard.
It's not cheap enough yet.
It is it's so bad. Like, there's not that many movies I've seen in my life that I think are genuinely horrendous. Like, there's probably about 10 or 15 I'd say are legitimately terrible. Most other ones I'm just kind of like, meh, it was all right. It's very rare to see a film that's actually terrible, but like, meh, it was all right. One of them is Hulk. That film is fucking terrible.
That's not good. Yeah, that film is not good.
It's offensively bad. But so how do you make the most strong, angry person a complete pussy? Like, just whinging the whole film, and it's so boring. And I don't like to use the word pussy because now it's become this loaded term because it's like derogatory, obviously, in some way. But it's like, in that one scenario, it works. Like, having Bruce Banner whinging about being Bruce Banner is pathetic. It's like the Human Torch saying, it's a bit hot in here, isn't it? It's like, oh, fuck off.
I'm warm.
I'm a bit warm. I got someone to the AC.
Oh, my clothes melt. Well, that's pretty much what happened with the first Ghost Rider, the Nick Cage Ghost Rider. The first one was basically just, I want to be Ghost Rider. I don't like my head being on fire. It's hot. I don't like it.
But the Nick Cage twist of like half really not knowing if he's actually acting or if it's actually happening to him. That's the weird thing. You watch one of the Nick Cage films and you're like, does he actually think he's in these situations and this is Nick Cage acting, or is he actually just this bad? So fucked him up, because from there he's just always been like that. He just thinks he's kind of half a badass all the time.
Yeah, I like the idea that he was like, during the entire production of Con Air, he was convinced that he was a criminal who was on his way back to his family. Yeah, I committed a crime.
It'd explain a lot, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would. It really would. Just the idea of John Malkovich, just like, what the fuck is this guy's problem? He's just talking to him in between takes, and he's like, what are all these cameras for?
Yeah, I can't remember my train of thought now. Choo choo, crazy train.
Crazy train. This is a very genuine chit-chat, isn't it? We're in hour 2, Mike. Come on brand.
I'm trying to be as genuine as I can. I'm sorry.
Oh, well, chit-chat away, but you know.
Okay, thanks. Boom, boom.
Yeah.
And if I'm interested, while we're just vaguely on the subject of Star Wars, which trilogy do you think, I know the new trilogy's now out yet, but if you just... Do you think that this new trilogy is better or worse than prequels? Because I imagine you'd say, like most people, original trilogy is the most consistent, the best trilogy. But, you know, I mean, my favourite film of them all is Episode 3.
I love Episode 3. And I think you're with us.
I think the last 40 minutes is some of the best Star Wars. It's like the most Star Wars-y Star Wars there is. It's just two gigantic, one big force battle, a big lightsaber battle, great music, brilliant set pieces, and you don't have to worry about some of the pithy dialogue. It's just all so well choreographed, and it's brilliant. And the darkness of when everyone criticizes Hayden Christensen's acting, which I'm not arguing with, but when he goes dark and he kills the people and he slaughters the younglings, you really feel it, and you're like, fucking hell, you watch the Death Star blow up Alderaan in New Hope, and it's like, that's kind of sad. And then you actually watch someone literally blast basically a light sword to slaughter a child.
Yeah,
that's fucking hell.
Something Brad, who's, like I say, he's on Talk Star Wars and he's been on here a few times. Something he pointed out about Rogue One that makes Episode 3 a darker movie is the corridor scene with Vader. You saw all of that, but they didn't show you what he did to the younglings.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
Jesus. When he pointed that out, I was like, oh shit. It's like, now I need a hug.
Oh, yeah.
It's grim.
Yeah, that is. I mean, I can imagine him like decapitating a lot, just do like a big swing and all their heads flying off. But
yeah, just throwing the lightsaber out, just slicing his way through,
cutting them through, and like a couple of them like crawling on the floor, like crying as their like arms like bleeding off, and like a 7-year-old.
And if they're, because of course they're kids as well, so they're like probably easily led. So he's like, Master Skywalker, what are we going to do? It's like, stand in a line.
Jesus Christ! And then we just stab you through all of your necks in one go.
That was easy. Kids are stupid. Anyway,
job done.
On with all the 66 and all that jazz.
Yeah.
Trip, pip, on we go.
On we go. Anyway, on to the next room full of children to massacre.
On to the next Lord. Yeah, I can imagine. That's the thing as well. It's like, there wasn't just one room, was there? There probably was quite a few classes of younglings. They didn't all just congregate in one place, surely.
Exactly. Well, it's the amount of, I mean, he killed the younglings which were like Padawans as well, which were like, basically
really young
10 or 11 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a very good point I hadn't thought of.
No. It's a big place. That Jedi Temple is not small. So the idea that and also he would have worked his way through all the different school years. Like he's, the sixth formers are all like, they're probably last because like you probably end up having it take his time with that. You probably have to, you know, he probably had to work his way up to that because there's probably quite a few of them, and maybe they're a bit more savvy than the little kids. Little kids is like the easy, you know, the tutorial. In Order 66, yeah, in the Order 66, that's basically the tutorial. Like you get the youngling slaughter out of the way, and you figured out what the controls do, and then you're going on to taking on the next levels, and then the final boss is all the sixth formers and all the clearance people.
Yeah, a bit like the Wookiee snapping in Force Unleashed.
Yeah, basically, like that whole first level, you just play as Darth Vader, just tossing Wookiees around,
just destroying them. I want to say Force Unleashed. That is my favorite, probably video game ever.
It's a great game. It's so much fun.
Next tattoo actually is going to be a Force Unleashed. It's my favorite Legends material of all Star Wars, and it's also probably my favorite video game probably ever, just because it's that. I can't remember what it's called. My mate, I think he called it like power porn almost, like the reason you like Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
It's just so fucking strong.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the game's actually a challenge. If you're not really hard mode, it can be, but it's more just you're so brutal against everything. Like God of War's got that, and a lot of the hacker slashy sort of games are just like you are way stronger than fucking everything.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. Well, I was just playing not long ago. I was playing Hyrule Warriors on the Switch, which is basically like the Legend of Zelda Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I got that game.
Yeah, and I was sitting there playing it going, this is amazing. I've been going for about 5 minutes. I've killed 3,000 things. This is incredible. I feel fucking wonderful. Like real-time strategies, I can do that. But, you know, in action games, I don't tend to get that much, you know, that much kind of
swipe and you kill like, 15 people at one go.
Yeah, exactly. Just like your special attacks, like 150 killed. I'm like, what the fuck? This is the greatest thing. Like, I just want to spend all my time doing this. Also in the game.
Ganondorf. You play Ganondorf, you're just fucking gigantic as well. There's even more satisfying to someone evil trying to kill all these things.
Yeah, but just anyone with a big, big sword, any kind of
Dynasty Warriors.
Yeah, so just anybody who can just cleave a fucking great hole in a big crowd of enemies coming at you is aces in my book.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, with so what is your favourite Star Wars trilogy? Have you guys, or generally, what do you think of the new ones? I'm just curious.
Blake, you haven't had a chance to talk much because I've just up.
You've railroaded this crazy train.
Crazy,
genuinely, pretty much standard.
Pretty much standard. It's a tough one. Yeah, I suppose it is tough with that. I mean, I think for me, in terms of ordering of the trilogies, I like, even though like Force Awakens is fairly, I agree with you, it is basically generic, is a bit of a retread in quite a few places. I still rate it possibly, I sort of think of it, I sort of rate all my films in terms of how I feel about the film. Like I'd actually say like my least favourite would be Episode 2, for example.
Fair. I think mine is the Tartovsky, the CG Clone Wars. Only because,
oh, sorry, I wasn't.
Yeah, only because I can't remember anything about that film, and I can at least say that Episode 2 has some good bits.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I would say, okay, Clone Wars Episode 2 being around that part.
Mm-hmm.
Last Jedi probably about above that.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, some films I rewatch and I actually think, oh, they actually get a bit better, right? Episode 1, weirdly, I think has got a little bit, I always feel is a little bit better every time I watch it.
I agree with you, but I hate Jar Jar more. Jar Jar annoys me every time I watch it more.
Oh, yeah, it's by no means a perfect film, obviously.
No. But it's him being effective as a character, though. He's designed to be annoying.
Yeah.
So that's good.
It's as if he's responsible for starting the Clone Wars or something.
I know, right? It's weird.
But... yeah, and again, one of the best things of Episode 3, he has no speaking part.
Yeah, you can just see him looking solemn. It's like, so you fucking should, Jar Jar. You started a Clone Wars, you prick. Shit. Yeah, this is all your fault.
Fuck off.
Yeah. Fuck off, Jar Jar. You start, and not for the reasons you'd expect either. It's because you started the fucking Clone Wars, you knob.
Because that's the thing. I mean, yeah, I think I agree. Episode 3 is possibly the best Star Wars film. I do have a lot of love for Rogue One as well, but that's a film that I've actually
love Rogue One.
That I do really love.
Every time I watch it, substantially. I first watched it, I was like, I didn't like it as much because it was the first Star Wars without the Force properly, or lightsabers. I know it's the dark scene, but I was like, it's not really what I like about Star Wars. And then I watched it again, and also I was hung up on the thing. I knew the story because obviously in New Hope she mentions got the Death Star plans, everyone died to get it, and then as soon as the film was announced, I was like, well, they're all going to die then. Aside from that.
Yeah, you sort of know about.
Once you get over that, it began to come.
Yeah, it's about the journey, really. Isn't it?
I was too hung up on that. I rewatched it a couple of times. And I was like, oh, okay, no, this is fucking brilliant.
But because I actually think, sadly, well, ironically, I think Disney's best output so far has actually been the stuff that's not been the new trilogy. Because I really love Rogue One. I really loved Rebels, but I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, I've seen Rebels and all of Clone Wars, but I've only watched a bit of Resistance.
Yeah, I've not seen Resistance yet, nothing. Yeah, no, I do need to watch that. But I mean, Solo was troubled, but I still enjoyed it for what it was. I think it was a better film than a lot of people gave it credit for. Even though I felt like it had more in common with like an Indiana Jones movie than it did actually a Star Wars movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
But I don't. I'm obviously, I'm always going to say the original trilogy is the best trilogy. But my worry is it's going to. I think it all hedges on what they do with Episode 9, because I think a lot of people have obviously if you listen to the internet, obviously everyone's just going to be, oh my God, because there's no way they can recover from Episode 8. But I still have high hopes for it. I still think it can turn it back. Obviously, as I said, Episode 3 came from Episode 2. So that's what I mean, it's all well and okay to the beat.
That's true. Lest we forget,
It's a weird thing with all the films as well, because like in very brief, like I'd say with my favorite being Episode 3 and then Episode 5 close behind. With all the new ones, I mean, I as a, kind of on the same thing as you, Blake, where I thought Force Awakens, it is flawed story wise, is a bit bland. I wouldn't even say bland because I really enjoyed it.
Safe.
I just thought, safe. That's a good way of putting it. But I really enjoyed that film. Like I thought it was so much fun, and the characters are great, and I really liked Last Jedi. I think I like it the least out of all the new ones, maybe. I'm not really sure. I mean, the Praetorian Guard scene is absolutely fucking amazing.
Superb.
Apart from probably Episode 3, Obi-Wan and Anakin, I'd say it's the best choreography of any of them. It's just
for sure.
Yeah.
And I found it is a bit long though, and there are some bits like the whole Canto Blight scene where they go to the casinos. That's just dull. But Rose is such a pithy, boring character, and every line of dialogue she has just sounds so lame and forced.
It does. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like I can see why she exists, but at the same time, just like sometimes she just sounds so fucking wanky.
Yeah, it's like, well, you're like a fucking wet towel, or you're like a used tampon of a character. It's like, you probably had a use, but really, you have to see it. But yeah, and Solo I found was like Solo. It was enjoyable and it was cool, but I found that unlike any other film of all the Star Wars films, there was not a single scene which stood out. Like even with obviously Phantom Menace is the Darth Maul battle and the glory of Duel of Fates. Episode 2, the first. There's a lot of parts of that movie that are quite crap, but the end of Episode 2, I think, once the Geonosis, they go through the droid factory and they're in the Colosseum. From that, the last 45 minutes is amazing. Just watching Yoda go badass on Dooku is awesome.
See, I'm the opposite on that particular point, but otherwise the Geonosis stuff is superb. There's also a really good Obi-Wan detective movie in there as well.
Oh, in the Camino bit. Yeah, I like all of Obi-Wan's bits. I just hate the whole basically Padme and Anakin just blandly talking near each other, not really looking at each other, and then just suddenly being in love. And obviously, forced pear eating, which is a bit weird and kind of contrived. Really slowly lifting it up and then moving it to her. She cuts a tiny bit off and then brings it back. And it's like,
and eats it before it touches her mouth as well, if you look closely. One of those fantastic CG gaffes from the early 2000s.
I'm actually worried to rewatch Episode 2 again, because like Episode 1 gets a bit better every time I watch Episode 2. It's the opposite. It gets a bit worse.
Oh, really?
So that's why I'm a bit like, I'm scared to just go, I'm fine to just have my memory of it, because I thought if I watch it again, I'm going to hate it more. So.
I used to be my favourite. Before episode 3 came out, I had them all on VHS. For the young kids of the audience, that's a videotape.
Yes. Remember them kids? No? Okay.
I had, bollocks to you.
Yeah, well, fuck off then. You don't understand true Star Wars.
You weren't there, man.
Exactly.
Welcome back to Gatekeeping Chit-Chat.
The elitist train.
Yeah. Oh God. No, we tried that, and they tried that in the 40s. It didn't work out well. Let's not do that.
But I find with all those the films, they will have like a standout moment. I mean, New Hope, I'd say lesser. One of my issues with New Hope is it is very dated, and trying to get like I got my girlfriend.
Yeah, it's a hard sell. Like I actually think I said this on Talk Star Wars not long ago. Actually, if you're going to introduce somebody to the films completely fresh, I actually think you're better off starting with Force Awakens now.
You think Force Awakens now?
Yeah, just
is that because it's the best out of the 3 starting films? Not the best, because New Hope is a game changer, but it's so dated and quite slow.
Yeah, it's the one. So for me, it's like the one out of the films that you don't need to have seen. I need to go back and rewatch it, having said that, because I kind of posited this on the fly and I haven't actually had a chance to go and test my hypothesis. But I suspect that it's sufficiently vague about the original trilogy in terms of the stuff it talks about that you can probably get away with watching it, not having seen any of the other films, and it still makes enough sense. I haven't had a chance to test this theory yet because, like I say, I mentioned it on a show, said it on the fly, and haven't had a chance to go back and watch Force Awakens since. But I think
you're right.
Force Awakens, they keep it. The stuff they reference is in enough self-contained. You know, it's self-contained and explained enough around it that you can probably get away with seeing Force Awakens cold.
Except maybe the Death Star bit, when they keep comparing Starkiller Base to the Death Star.
Maybe.
But I think you can still probably pick it up.
Yeah, I agree your point, and I can see that. But my only worry is, I don't know. The only thing that I think would be lost by doing that is the emotional hit of Han Solo.
Yeah, I do get what you mean. Like at that point, the only way you could the only resonance it would have is this is the first guy to show Rey any kind of compassion as a sort of, like an older figure since she's been abandoned on Jakku. And it kind of, I mean that I know what you mean. The impact of that is lessened because you don't have the context of who Han Solo is apart from like a sort of deadbeat dad at that point. So it's pretty much the only context you have for him is like, his son he's a wrong 'un. He turned out bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I found with Solo, my issue with the film is just that I've watched it twice now because I've seen all the films numerous times, but I rewatched Solo when I got it and stuff. And I showed my girlfriend, she'd seen like a couple of Star Wars films, but we basically watched them all from episode 1 in chronological order, just to kind of make the most of it. Just because otherwise she'd get confused between some of the time jumps and all that sort of other stuff. And I just thought, especially with Rogue One, it makes a lot more sense if she's coming into it kind of fresh face to watch Rogue One before the episode 4. Otherwise, it just gets a bit muddled. I don't want her not enjoying films because they don't make sense to her. I'd rather she didn't enjoy them because she has an actual doesn't like them for a more valid reason. But Solo, I just found nothing wowed me. I did really enjoy it, but I can't think of a single scene which happened. And I was like, oh shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's not that massive gut punch. I must admit. I suppose the only bit is, Darth Maul's in it at the end. That's about it.
Yeah, exactly. So. And that must be really cool for a lot of the casual viewers. But for any of us who've seen Clone Wars or Rebels, it was like, oh crap, he's in. That's amazing. But it's not. It's I knew he was alive at that time. It's more I'm excited for anyone else to see the film because I already knew he's alive at that time.
Yeah,
yeah. It wasn't a big shock for me. Like, I mean, if I'd just seen the films, that would be a shock. But that's the thing. I do agree, and it's not that there's not good scenes in it, like the whole Kessel Run thing is good.
Yeah, there's definitely good scenes,
But I agree. There's nothing that's like, wow, that's amazing. I do agree with that. It's just solid. I think it's all it is.
There's no parts of it you watch it and are cringy like the prequels or really slow like some of the originals, but it's like quite evenly paced the whole time. I'd say it's kind of like rating wise, it's consistently a 7 or 8 out of 10. Just the entire film.
Yeah. That's a good.
I'll agree with that. Yeah,
very good summary.
And what about you, Rob? As we've just been talking about Star Wars, so I'd like to hear your opinion.
That's cool. Yeah. I'm kind of the films. I think Empire is still like the best for me, but I already know this. I'm experiencing a lot of conflict about whether or not Rogue One should be going up the list, and Episode 3 is kind of up there and in the mix. I like the dark ones. That's the thing. I like the ones with the darker subject matter.
Same. Yeah. That's what I was hoping with the new ones was going to happen. And Force Awakens started doing that. And I was like, yes. And then Last Jedi didn't as much. And I'm just a bit like,
Yeah, I didn't really feel like... I felt like they, if anything, I felt like they went too far in that direction with Last Jedi, because now the entire Resistance can fit on the Millennium Falcon. It's like, that's not ideal for...
And you kind of know the ending. Like, I'm obviously, with Episode 9, I don't know any new information or anything like that. I try not to pay attention to any of the sort of fan theories or anything, because I get my hopes up or whatever. But I think the general consensus is probably Kylo Ren's going to die. Yeah, and Rey's probably going to start a new Jedi Order, not dissimilar to Luke in Legends, or they're both going to die, and the kind of legend of the Jedi is going to nicely live on until Disney decide to make Episode 10 in probably 10 years.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's entirely possible. I think what I would have liked to have happen is that they kind of ended number 9 with the sort of view to Episode 10 being a very different story, like almost to the point where, Kylo and Rey have kind of flipped allegiances. And because but then I don't see them doing that for various reasons. Some kind of storyline.
Last Jedi, almost. I was like, that would have been a brilliant twist to Last Jedi, where like they slowly kind of converge, and it doesn't quite happen. Then Episode 9, they cross, and Rey's actually the bad one, and Kylo's redemption. That'd have been brilliant. But now they've kind of gone way too far with it. I
think they've kind of walked that one away now, which is a shame, because I think that's what I would have liked to see them do in Last Jedi is almost end at the throne room scene where they finish taking out the Praetorian Guards, and then kind of to the point where you don't really know, like, has Kylo kind of come to the light? Has Rey gone a bit dark? Are they kind of, is it just like a, partnership of convenience? Is one going to try and, convert the other, or vice, are both going to be trying to convert each other? And Episode 9 could have been all about that sort of back and forth, trying to convince the other to go to the dark or light or whatever. Mm-hmm. But instead, we ended up with, do you want to join up? Nah, mate. Nah, you're up. Nah, bruv, you good. Nah, fam. Yeah.
Directed by?
Yeah. Rian Johnson. Yeah. Probably the man with one of the most thankless jobs in all of Star Wars.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and now he's making like a trilogy that everyone's going to be eating on. And
I haven't heard anything about that trilogy in a long time.
Yeah, I think after all the hit back, it's gone quiet.
It's gone quiet. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's still. I see no reason why it's not happening anymore. Like, unless it was going to be standalone, in which case now they're there's been rumblings that they're kind of walking the standalone stuff back. So unless it was something like that where it's just kind of caught in the mix, I feel like it's probably going to be announced. I think maybe Celebration this year. Who knows?
Yeah, well, they're also focusing on the Benioff Weiss series, the guys who made the Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
They're making a saga of films.
Yes.
No one really knows when. I mean, obviously, there's the Mandalorian series made by Jon Favreau, and there's going to be the Cassian Andor series prequeling Rogue One, which both of them are going to be very interesting to see. Hopefully, they're going to be a bit more dark, a bit more gritty and stuff. But
that'd be nice, yeah.
Yeah, we'll kind of, I suppose we'll see. But I'd be interested to know with you two, with the term milking, I've asked a couple of mates this. A lot of people say they're milking Star Wars.
Okay.
And I'd be interested to know what your opinions of what milking actually is. Because I would argue Star Wars isn't milked because there's still demand for it. And in my opinion, even though Last Jedi was a bit squiffy, the quality is still there for now. But a lot of people who say don't like any of the new films, they go, no, it's definitely being milked now. So I don't know what your guys' opinions are, not just of Star Wars, but in general of milking, in air quotes.
I think any franchise that has so much merch attached to it has always been a fucking Cravendale plant, to be honest. Like, forget just it's been, I think the milk ship sailed decades ago. I think nowadays it's just kind of, there's this almost hipster-esque aversion to success in business. So it's like anything where businesses are doing well is seen as like somehow bad, just kind of inherently. But then at the same time, these are the same people who tweet it from their iPhones. So all bets are fucking off as to what's going on with their levels of cognitive dissonance. I think that, commercially Star Wars has been a property like that for at least 20 years, if not the whole time. Because even something as it was the first really huge film in terms of toy stuff. Mm-hmm. That was the one that really set the world on fire in terms of toy lines and toy stuff. And every character, when you've got a line of figures that includes background aliens who you only see for a second and a half represented in action figure form, I think that's milking. I think by that definition of trying to get eke every last penny out of it, they started that journey in like 78, I think, and they've just never stopped. So I think it's always been a thing. It's just that now, because it's owned by Disney, it's seen as like, oh, boo, Disney, big company bad. Lucasfilm, big company good for some reason. Like it's this weird perception about global conglomerates and this sort of, the good ones and the bad ones. It's like, no, they're all just companies trying to make money and trying to pay people and do the best for their shareholders. Like this, that's not necessarily a bad thing anyway, because obviously, like I say, people having money from jobs is good. Just that's why you do jobs, surely.
That said, Rob, I think it's more I think the more focus of the question was more on the fact that the amount of films that have been produced in comparison to.
It's not. It's more just your opinions on general anything like this. Just as a jump off point. Yeah, just because I've said that. There's a mate of mine who I regularly debate with about this sort of idea, and the main thing that what I try and do when I disagree with someone when it's normally quite polar opinions, I'll try and kind of do one extreme of their opinion. I'll be like, okay, is a sequel of one film milking? And the answer is, well, no. Okay, is a trilogy milking? No. Okay, so is two trilogies, is that then milking? The answer is normally then yes, but it's like, okay, but for example, Lord of the Rings, is Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit milking? And you can kind of hit it at every angle. And I think it's same as Marvel. A lot of people say Marvel is milking it. So if you're creating a cinematic universe with all these characters,
that's a risk.
Yeah, it's like, or is it like, how can one milk it if the plan from the get-go is almost, let's have 20 or something,
Yeah. No, I totally get what you're saying. I think with like Lord of the Rings, I think is less guilty of it than some of the other franchises, just because to the best of my recollection, there's been a couple of video games and there's been some toys and things, but generally it's primarily the books and the films.
If there's one part of it that I thought was milking, it was more the decision to stretch out The Hobbit.
That would be. I would agree. That's an example qualifies. Of milking. Or like milking, Harry Potter into the last part into two films because you don't like. I mean, I'm sure it's not a case of you don't know how to edit, thus you can't cut stuff out. There's a lot of story to tell, I realise, but I think now if they would. Having said that, I wonder if were they to do it now, like were Harry Potter, Deathly Hallows to be coming out this year, I think they would have just gone for a 3-hour film. Because now we seem to be less averse to it as a cinema going audience, especially because tickets are so fucking expensive. That, you want to get your money's worth. So it's like Lord of the Rings marathon, yes please. Extended cuts, please.
I will say though, here's a thing that I was thinking of before, which I don't know why they didn't do it. I think they kind of did a little bit with the first two films, but like, how happy would people have been if they did with the Harry Potter films what they did with the Lord of the Rings films, which is release extended versions of each of the films?
Yeah,
like I mean, I read a couple of Harry Potter books, but to be honest, in my opinion, J.K. Rowling has got great ideas, but when it comes to actually writing them, I don't really agree with her writing style. But I say don't agree with it. I mean, like, I read it and I don't think she's the best writer. But
I would agree. Yeah, I think the story she tells is really good, but I don't necessarily think she's the strongest.
So George Lucas,
yeah,
but he's got some of the best ideas in sci-fi history. Yet when you leave him to purely his own devices, he fucks up a bit.
Yeah. But actually, I will say, if you haven't read it already, and you like the stories of J.K. Rowling, her crime stuff where she writes under the pseudonym under Robert Galbraith is fucking great.
Really? I know it sold quite badly, and then when she was under pseudonym.
No, I love them. They're fantastic. They're really, really great. They're just old style, old school standard kind of beat, people walking the beat detective stuff. They're not like super technical cybercrime stuff. They're very much like old school, like Morse and Holmes and things like that. Just, one person and their wits, maybe like they got an assistant, that sort of thing. But it's just really, really good.
Is it quite noiry?
Not so much. It's like modern day setting. Like it's
I just didn't know if it might have ticked your box. That was all.
It's not Event Horizon, though, is it?
It's not. No. Well, very few things can be. You know.
God, the Detective Noir
only one film
on the Event Horizon. Fun.
Yeah. In fact, only one film has ever been successfully able to be Event Horizon.
Fuck's sake.
I don't know why that's an objection.
I like the fact that because of this crossover, now Event Horizon's mentioned on both halves, so that's really well.
Yes.
Really well.
Oh, what have we done? I need to go watch Event Horizon now to make sure that I actually, because I haven't even seen the film.
You'll thank me.
Yeah, fuck it, film night, come on.
The first of its kind, a 2-part live stream across 2 different podcasts. DVD commentary across 2 different podcasts.
Event Horizon of all the films.
Yeah. So we're up to the bit where, and now we're going to switch over to the other feed. So see you in a week.
I was going to ask. Well, I was going to ask. It sounds like it's pre-thought of. But what do you think of those podcasts? Once again, in podcasting, I'm happy for anyone to do anything and release whatever they want. You know, and I don't listen to many. I don't listen to any true crime. I only listen to a couple of audio dramas. Generally, it's conversational ones. It's kind of my jam. But one thing I don't really get, and I've not got an issue with it. I want to clarify that to any listeners. I do not have a problem with people doing it. I just don't get it. Is the minute by minute of films? I don't know if I've just not heard enough.
Yeah, I'm impressed by the people who can do it because I just don't have that level of, you know, I don't have that level of aficionado in me that I can analyze something in that much depth.
Should ruin the film, surely. Like we're having to talk for like somewhere between 15 minutes and an hour about a minute of film.
It's peculiar to me. Like just, you know, how can I feel like, you know, when you're talking about movies on a movie podcast, just generally, obviously you can, you know, I've heard this done on shows before where they do a, you know, an hour and a half about a film, but interspersed with discussion about the film itself is a little bit behind the scenes trivia and all that stuff. I can't imagine that there's a lot of market for like behind the scenes trivia minute by minute. You know, like, you know, the funny thing about this particular minute is completely distinct from the minute before and the minute after. Actually, in this bit, you see a thing, and actually, the actor's been on record as saying like this particular minute was like the hardest one he'd ever filmed. Like, I can't imagine it's that. You know, there's that much detail to be working with. So I'm always impressed by people who can do it, but
I think it borders on too much like film studies level. Stuff for me.
Yeah, like
it's
when I was
too much info, really.
Yeah, it's like that period of when I was doing English literature at school and I lost interest in reading for fun for a while, just because you'd gone into so much subtext and all that shit. And now I'm very much a remedial kind of level of analysis when it comes to books and films. I'm like, oh, pretty lights, explosions. I like this.
That's kind of what I do. There's a lot of, if it's a film which is all about the storyline, then that's, you know, that's what I'll focus on. But it's like with Star Wars, one of the things I say to people is Star Wars for me is an escape. I love it. The reason Star Wars is like my favorite movie and why I've got a tattoo on me is my dad got me into it when I was younger. My dad passed away a few years ago. So that's kind of like a homage to him. But also it's something unlike any other film. Like you get the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it's all intertwined and stuff. But the comics are kind of like alternate versions of events and things. But Star Wars is excluding Legends, obviously, even though there's kind of still, but let's not delve too far deep into that. Star Wars, it's like, you know, here's all the main films, plus his comics, plus his books, plus his now slowly games, you know, going to be each of these things, even if it's not actually directly relating to one of the things in the main film, it's still happening in that universe. Yeah. And that's what I like so much about it, you know? And it's that building of the universe. I can't remember my main point on what we were talking about before this.
Great. Genuine Chit-Chat.
I had it, and it's as soon as one of you say it, it's going to come back.
Yeah, no. It's well, you're talking about the minute by minute shows, right?
Yeah. With Star Wars, I think the thing I was kind of alluding to is behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I don't. There's a lot of cool stuff about Star Wars behind the scenes because the making of the New Hope, some of the stories by that of like what George Lucas actually did, it's really interesting. But I found this with Doctor Who as well. I used to watch that when I was a bit younger. Is that when I see behind the scenes and I'm watching all the actors get all their face makeup on, all the you know, the prosthetics of the aliens, and I'm watching, the Millennium Falcon, you know, they didn't actually do what they looks like in the film. It's all green screen, this and that. Yeah. And I just find that when I then watch the film itself, I see that. And it takes me out of the immersion a little bit. Like I know aliens aren't real in the same way they are in Star Wars, at least. Sure. But if I then watch a thing breaking down, explaining exactly how it was prosthetically made and the actor behind it, I then watch it and I just see that thing. It's only here movie mistakes and stuff. Like there's You know Evil Dead, the original Evil Dead movie?
Yeah.
There's my brother's a massive Bruce Campbell fan. He calls him Juicy Brucey, and I watched all the Evil Dead movies with him and stuff. And in the first Evil Dead movie, because it's so low budget, they didn't have like a proper image of the moon, or like a proper CGI or anything. So they took a photo of the moon and cut it out and put it on like photo paper or something like that, and you can actually see like the edges of where it's been cut out.
Yeah, because it hadn't been cut quite to the line or whatever.
It's something. It may not be exactly. I may be slaughtering this, but it's something to do with the moon and something like that. And it's just like, and
you can't not see it now.
Yeah, exactly. And with Evil Dead, it's funny. It's fine because it's an old film, and now that you watch it, it's not as serious anymore. But when you get more films that are trying to be quite serious, quite about emotion, it's just a bit. For me personally, I'm not that into it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. The thing that I've noticed about podcasts recently, I don't know if you've seen this as well, Mike, is there's been this really quick shift where I've seen no audio dramas and now they're fucking everywhere. And I love the fact that they exist because, you know, I've have a certain sort of nostalgic soft spot for those kind of old audio dramas, like the ones that
the Galaxy and stuff.
Yeah, things like that. And like the ones that Audible are doing now, like other services are available, do my due diligence. But like the ones that they do the Alien ones, and they've done Murder on the Orient Express and War of the Worlds and things like that. I really like that format of storytelling. So I really love that they exist. But now I just idly browsing iTunes today, and there's loads, there's dozens. Like all of a sudden they seem to have just sprung up. But it's very peculiar to me.
Everyone just decided the same day, let's produce one, and they've all just taken the same amount of time to.
Maybe, yeah. That's it. I mean, I like I say, I love it. I think it's, you know, I'm really pleased that's a medium that's there.
There's not two called unexpected audio dramas, are there?
No, it's not the unexpected audio drama. Oh, fuck. What are the odds? Yeah, we put Bang Here on the calendar, and like we thought that would be the one. But no, somebody just fucking beat me to it and spaffed early,
baby. And then also, you know, your fucking podcast is named anything else. Why do we even have you?
Yeah, I feel like Leap Year Babies is probably a good podcast name if it's not already.
Yeah, it does sound like one.
But then I've never been good at that stuff, so maybe I'm talking out my ass.
I'm not good at it, am I? I didn't even name my own fucking podcast.
Well, I will say I did do that, but I did get the idea from another podcast I was listening to at the time. It's a fun story that I tell in that little Kindle book I put up last year. You put
up a Kindle book last year?
I did, yeah. And in fact, actually, if your friend is interested in getting into podcasting, the technical stuff you can get online, but the philosophical stuff, I think I do a good job of summing up the stuff to think about.
I'll definitely send that his way. I'll have to get you to send it to me after the show.
I most certainly can do that, yeah. But the one that gets me, we talked about it a bit last episodes. I found that basically, I don't know, are you on, I know you're on the Facebook groups. Are you on any subreddits for podcasting?
I follow podcasting and podcasts, but that's
those are the two for me as well. There's one, there's almost always every couple of months at least, there's a thread. What kind of shows do you want to just stop? Like just stop happening? And I'm really annoyed because one of the ones that always pops up is near the top is like the show about nothing where people are just sitting around talking bollocks. I'm like, bitch, I was doing this for years. It's like, I get it because, you know, I understand the appeal as well. Because if you've got like, you came into your thing with a mission. I came into mine with a mission of like, I got some fucking funny friends. I reckon they'd be entertaining as a sort of, you know, as a broadcast. And you've got your thing of like, I want to talk to lots of different people from different walks of life. But I do get the appeal of, I'm a podcaster. I want to do a podcast. I've already got a subject in mind. Thus, the sort of the no format bollocks podcast appeals. But I can't help that everybody's jumped onto that. I feel like because this would be like episode 77 for us, it feels like, it looks like we've not been doing it for very long, even though we really have. But it's just, you know, as you may find, I'm sure you've found, it can sometimes be difficult to get people together on a call to get it done. And I think there were times where me and Blake probably should have just done a 2-man show where we were like, oh no, we'll wait for more people. And then just more people never came. And then the episodes just kept getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back. And when we eventually did a 2-man show, we got loads of really lovely feedback about it. It's like, oh, I really enjoyed your 2-man show. I was like, Good. Thank you. Okay. Now I don't feel so weird about doing it if we need to. That's good.
Yeah.
Like, I wish I'd done this fucking months and years ago.
Yeah, it's weird with podcasting as well, because as it's becoming as it's getting more traction and stuff, you're finding that there's now becoming more and more almost like a fandom. There's more of a podcast fandom.
Yes.
There's a lot more elitism. There's a lot more people who are just
for sure. Yeah.
Like the amount of people who are just like, on podcasts, I can't handle it when people like cough, or I can't handle it when you can hear their breathing and shit like that. And I'm just like, you're listening to two people actually talk. Like, like if it's an audio drama or something for immersion, like, I can understand that. But like, and some people say, I hate hear people chomping, and okay, yeah, eating while podcasting is not very polite. It's not very considerate of your listeners.
It's not ideal.
Like,
Blake just puts on a little knowing smile there. It's like, sometimes I need crisps. Fuck you.
It's one of those things. Don't get angry about it.
You don't get to this weight being not eating.
oh, you made it sad. Reel out the depressed tribe for us. Yeah. I know what you mean. Like it's a weird and wonderful medium, but at the same time, I think people have got, because there's so many professional podcasting, like because every outlet ends up with multiple podcasts. Like somewhere like an IGN or a Nerdist or whatever has so many different shows. They can literally spin one up that day if they want to do one. They can just spin it up on the day, and they can just have it professional production out the door on the day, no problem. Mm-hmm. Most people aren't like that. Like most people are doing it in their free time, like we are. We're recording on a Tuesday night, in a random Tuesday that we've mutually agreed is the time we can make. And I'm going to have to, like I say, I said to you in the off air, I'm going to have to take it on my commute, and I'm going to have to listen to it through and make sure it's acceptable, and as much as we get anyway. Yeah. It takes time out of our free time to do this stuff. Mm-hmm. And then when I see on like there's a Stitcher podcasters group. And actually I was really happy that Kyle from the Tumbling Saber podcast, who's a friend of ours, was watching this thread, because somebody said, what's your kind of limit on, it's like, how forgiving are you of sounds? And I don't mind saying, I'm never going to meet the guy, so I don't mind saying up himself prick. Some self-important wanker was in there saying, the listeners are really annoyed by this more than you might think. And I was like, have you asked them all? Or are you just being a wanker? Fuck off, wanker. And Kyle came in and said, I used to be funny about breathing and ums and ahs and, awkward silences and stuff. But then I realized it was taking me 3 hours to edit each hour of audio, and I don't have the fucking time. I was like, Kyle, you are my hero in so many ways, but especially now, because you are just articulating what most of us are thinking. Fuck off, wanker, fuck off.
I know, it's one of those things where, like, especially with podcasting, is generally speaking a free medium, apart from, unless you're really rich or famous or something, and you can manage to have some sort of subscription service, which in my business model, if we call it business model is, obviously I'm not doing that. I'd rather more people got it and it was free than a few people got it, I got paid. Yeah, but it's like people, they do it with bands as well. And with bands, I'd say, with Spotify, and also with like, this laptop, I could have easily, instead of Photoshop and Audacity or whatever, I could have put on, Audacity's a bad example, but I could have put on some sort of editing studio. Most guitars now you can plug into computers and all these sort of other things. It's not hard to make music in the same way it used to be. So the market's a lot more saturated, not more people are doing it, but people were still really twatty about it seems. Not quite the same degree as podcasting, but it's like these people are basically doing this shit for free because they're passionate about it and they enjoy it. If you don't like it, that's completely fine. You're well within your right to not like it, but you don't have to be a prick about it.
No, exactly. And you're also welcome to stick a spin up your ass and get to fuck Island. One of those things I heartily recommend anybody who's, particularly precious about the audio. Like I just use the term particularly precious, which is, it's a double plosive. So I'm not going to be able to get that completely out of my audio. It's just
people actually get bothered by plosives.
I don't know. Like, I hope not, because if, I'm one of those people who speaks quite, a lot. And, and if I'm producing excessive amounts of plosive power in my positioning of my speech, that one was just gratuitous.
It was.
But if I'm producing a lot of that stuff, then I can't really. I'm not, like I say, I'm not in the Joe Rogan boat. I'm not one of those guys who's
expert in audio.
Yeah, and also I don't have an employee on staff who's sole job it is to make the audio sound good. It's just not something I can justify the expense of, because there is not a lot of, there's like a small amount of income from like, you know, some podcast ads at the beginning and end and things like that. But it's very, very minimal. It's not like
covering the hosting costs.
Exactly. Yeah. It covers the hosting costs, and maybe it makes it feel like less of a colossal waste of fucking time on my off days. Because believe me, like there are days where I'm just like, I could just shut it all down, couldn't I? That wouldn't be so bad, would it? Maybe I could do that.
And I even get those days sometimes. I'll be having on like I did it almost on this Sunday night, where unfortunately the episode I was doing was the one with the blind director that I mentioned before, who's like a real inspiration to me. Yeah. And it's like I feel like almost a dick complaining, but like I was listening to the podcast and I was playing Dungeons and Dragons with my mates on Sunday. We finished a campaign, so it ran quite late, and then I was like, okay. Now, from I think it was like 8 o'clock or something, we started like quite early. It's like, okay, now it's 8 o'clock. I have to eat dinner, get my stuff ready for work tomorrow, and also do all the details for basically a podcast almost from scratch, because all I've got is like the audio. I haven't done anything else to it. Yeah. So I think I went to bed at like 1:30, and I was just like, and I got up at like 7, and I was just like, I felt really tired all day at work, and I was like, I'm doing this as a passion project, and I don't expect this to necessarily go anywhere. I mean, that'd be the dream, but it's more for my own thing. And it's just like, would I be happier if I didn't have a podcast at all? And I don't often think like that. You know, I'm pretty certain that it is the amount of new people I meet, you know, including your two lovely selves, and, you know, so a lot of the connections I make and all these sorts of other things, when I'm doing them, when I'm, you know, having this chat or anything like that, it definitely makes it worth it. But you do get those nights where you're just by yourself and you're editing and you're like, you know, I'm happy with any listeners I get. I do appreciate each and every listener I get.
Yeah, totally.
But when you're not getting, you know, tens of thousands, you can look at it sometimes and just go, do people care enough? Sometimes just a bit like, if I just turn this off, no one's going to cry about, you know, Genuine Chit-Chat not being on podcasting anymore. You know, I do occasionally have that thought.
I'd be sad.
Oh, thank you.
Especially now we've had a chance to properly chat, you know.
Yeah, instead of like random passing messages and
exactly, yeah, just random Slack messages of like, does this day sound good? Yes, that sounds good. All right, cool.
Yeah, exactly. No actual flow. But obviously, I don't want to clarify to anyone listening. I'm not demotivated or anything. But
no.
I've got a lot of friends who are musicians and stuff, and they feel the same, where it's like, you know, when you're releasing the music or when you're on stage, like playing it, it's amazing. But it's, you know, when you're driving to a gig for 3 hours in like a fucking tiny van, and then you set up for ages, the main bands are assholes, and then you play to a show full of about 7 people, and then you drive home. It's like, that costs me money to drive out and do all that stuff. And it's like, is it worth it? And, you know, I guess it's one of those things with podcasts is I know that, most podcasts, like quite a high percentage of them, don't get past. I think it's like the 5th or 10th episode or something.
I think that sounds about right, to be honest.
Yeah, because people just don't realize how much work it actually takes to not only start doing a podcast, but to uphold it. Because you get the people like, you know, who are like, oh, I'm just going to start a podcast, chatting with my mates. And then all of their mates are boring as fuck, or they all bail. And they're just like, they do like 3 or 4 episodes. And they're like, I'm spending hours of my week doing this. And yeah, I don't know what we're doing.
I knew Blake would be my rock, but otherwise, you know, the rest of those fucking wasters, I'm never sure.
Did you get it with your podcast when you were like starting up and you asked loads of people, would you be on it? Would you come on this? And they all said yes. And then you actually do it. And then 3/4 of them just change their mind afterwards.
I don't know about that many. There've definitely been people where I've said, oh, you know, it'd be great is if we can get you on. And they go, yeah, sounds great. And then every time you ask them about it, it's like, I can't really, like, you know, and then you just like, eventually you just want to say, just say no. It's okay. Like, I'm not going to be cross. It's all right. There's not going to be any drama if you just want to say no. That's okay. And you can always, if you change your mind later, you can also say, can I come on? And I'll be like, yes, or fuck off. I'm never likely to say fuck off unless I genuinely think it's going to be a bad experience for them. Like if it was, you know, somebody super introverted, like a 94+ percenter, and they're not going to have a good time. They're just not, because they're going to be constantly on edge about like, oh, well, hang on, I don't know, it's just going out to potentially billions of people. Like, is this podcast fucking huge in Uganda? Like, this is a thing I need to concern myself with suddenly.
Is this the 93rd top sports podcast in Uganda?
I fucking wish. Genre, but I feel like we're probably like number 1 for automotive and transport somewhere, like just because Crazy Train is somewhere in like Bulgaria or something. We're like the number 1 car and transport podcast. They're hoping like there's some email sitting in my spam filters somewhere about turning up at a convention for Wayward Tractor attractive convention or something because it's like transport related. But I can dream, but I don't think that's the case.
Or maybe just loads of insane asylum things. Just loads of people thinking that you're some sort of mobile insane asylum.
That would make far more sense with our demographic.
That'd make a really good movie if you've got the right director behind it.
Yeah. It's like you go for a podcast convention, it turns out they're all mad. Brilliant. Yeah. I'd watch that, to be honest, especially if they put Statham in it. Nicolas Cage genuinely thinking he's like gone insane and been committed.
He refers to every noun as a Statham.
Yeah, I can believe it, to be honest.
I'd watch that film. Just to hear him say his own name in his accent or whatever and over again. That would be
I would watch that. I would probably go for that, I think.
Yeah, I definitely would too.
Yeah. Well, there you go. I mean, we've probably been going for 2 hours 10.
Yeah, I was. Do
we want to call it a night? Because it's getting, obviously for the listeners, it depends on when they started listening. But for us, it's getting kind of late.
It is getting quite late. Yeah,
it really depends.
I've thoroughly enjoyed this. Yeah, I mean, I've thoroughly enjoyed this chat, but I think we've come to a nice sort of gentle impasse where we can kind of.
Yeah, I'd say I've thoroughly enjoyed it as well. We've gained a lot in terms of kind of connecting with some of the Britpod scene podcasts. Like we've made friends and we've had really great guests out of it. And, you slot in nicely, I think, into that.
Thank you very much.
I think people will very much enjoy. I mean, they might find, this experiment of the sort of crossfeed podcast, the crossfeed epic, whether that does what we hope it will do, who's to know? But at the same time, it's fun to try new things.
Definitely, I 100% agree. And it's collaboration is just one of those things where it's at the very worst, you just have a nice chat with someone else. Like even if we do, and there's no cross-pollination of our audiences whatsoever, it's still, I've had a nice chat. So
there you go. What's the harm, right?
Exactly.
Now, speaking of, nice things and stuff like that. And there was a really nice segue that just escaped me. I had it lined up and then we've carried on talking and it's gone. If people listen to this and they're like, this is a wonderful, I love this experiment. This is my favorite thing. Where can people find your show and social media things?
It's Genuine Chit-Chat, because whenever I say it normally Genuine Chit-Chat, you can't actually hear the pronunciation of it. But I'm on Instagram, Genuine Chit-Chat. I'm on on Instagram, it's genuine_chit-chat because I'm a moron. On Twitter, it's Genuine Chit-Chat. On Facebook, you can find it. I mean, what's quite good about my show is I've tried searching for it in loads of places. And if you type in Genuine Chit-Chat in Google, it will come up.
Nice. You got some SEO action going on there.
I do indeed, yeah. So it's just anywhere, on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, all the sort of pretty much anywhere I could kind of spread my seed. I've put it in there. But I was going to say same for you as well, because I think this part was going to be second half. So I'll probably end up soldering, we'll soldier some parts together or something. But if you want to say what where to get you as well, and I'll...
So obviously we talked about the Emotionally 14 as the banner. Emotionally14.com is the website. The Crazy Train podcast is available on all good podcasting platforms and some of the shit ones, including but not limited to Apple Podcasts. I think it's on YouTube, Spotify, Spreaker. There's basically, the way I always say it is we're on every podcasting platform I know of. And if there's one we're not, then let me know and I can probably fix that.
Same with me. Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much just as far as I know, it's everywhere. But, certainly Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, all of those are definitely in place and should hopefully still be by the time this goes out. I would be very surprised if we've run afoul of anything that we haven't already. If there's a line that Apple have or somebody like that for good taste, that ship sailed long ago. So that's probably a good sign that we're safe.
Absolutely wonderful. Well, I've had an absolutely great chat and I'll happily do this again with yourselves. It's just a nice, cool chat.
Yeah, well, we most definitely have to do this again. Now that we've got this, let's say now we've opened ourselves up to this world of other people. We're just like, we like them. We should have them back again. So it will most definitely not be 77 episodes before that happens next time. So, rest assured that we will, no doubt, our paths will cross again in the not too distant future, I'm sure.
Absolutely perfect. Wonderful.
Yeah, Blake, social media. I know you're fucking massive on it. You are by far
prolific on that.
You are the best of us when it comes to social media. So where can people find you?
You can find me on Facebook if you can find me. You can find me on Twitter at fucksakeblake. You can find me on Instagram at Harmony Appreciator. And also on Facebook, we obviously there the Emotionally 14, so there's the Crazy Train pages and the Gamecast page as well.
Yeah.
So we got our groups there.
Facebook groups where people just come and shitpost. Obviously, Crazy Train's just people just sharing stupid memes and us sharing the new episodes, and then the Gamecast is people sharing stupid memes, but they're about games. It's the only difference, really.
Right.
There's very much a demographic, like there's a core to everything. It's like bunch of shit posting with a theme of blank, where blank is insert thing here. That's very much what we end up going for there. I'm on Twitter, incidentally, at Rob Wade Vision, Twitter and Instagram, and then I'm behind the curtain at Emotionally 14 and at Talk Star Wars on Twitter and Instagram as well. So if you want to interact with me, those are the places to do it. I don't really do Facebook so much apart from sharing stuff. That's pretty much my exclusive use of Facebook, and I'm very much happier for it. But there you go, Mike. Thank you for joining us. And,
well, technically, thank you for joining me as well.
Well,
So,
it's been,
thank you for having us.
We've all just enjoyed joining each other. It's been a lovely time. So
it felt weirdly intimate.
romantic.
Yeah, exactly. I think bromantic is like a good, it's a good summary.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah, a good summary of what's transpired. But yeah, for the Crazy Train, this train terminates here.
And thanks for everyone for listening. See you later.
Peace.
And that's the end of the podcast. Thanks as always for tuning in, guys. As I said at the start, if you hadn't checked out part 1, be sure to go check that out on the Crazy Train podcast. And also, be sure to check out Emotionally 14 and all the sort of things that they do, because all their podcasts and associated podcasts are fantastic. Now, as I always say, you can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Instagram's generally the place I post the most. There's 30-second snippets of episodes that I release on there, so if you're sort of unsure and you don't listen to every episode, be sure to check that out. I also post movie reviews. I go travelling a small amount, so I normally post a picture or two when I go travelling. Nice meals, these sorts of, Instagram-y things. So if you want to see food, movie reviews, audio snippets, and a small insight into my life, then follow me on Instagram. If you're more about discovering other podcasts and other podcasters, check me out on Twitter. Instagram is at genuine_chit-chat, whereas Twitter is just at genuine chit-chat, because I'm a moron. Coming up over the following weeks, next week should be the release of my episode with the American comedian. I haven't disclosed his name as of yet, because we haven't actually recorded it yet, and just in case anything happens, I don't want to sort of name drop and then him not do it. It seems really, disingenuous or something, but still, that should be out next week. And then after that, I haven't 100% decided what I'm going to release, because that will be the first week of March. I may release part 1 of my chat with the gentleman from the Church of Satan. I haven't fully decided. It may be the chat with Beth Crane of We Fix Space Junk, or it may be something else entirely. I haven't fully figured it out, but they're the sort of things that we've got coming up, so you can look forward to all of those. As well as those, I've got 3 or 4 recordings due, a couple of CEOs, a couple of podcasters, and a couple of neither of those things. So, that's an exciting thing for me as well. I think that is just about everything, guys. I can't think of anything off the top of my head that is upcoming that's really super important. I may be missing something, but I don't know. So, always appreciate a like or a review or any sort of feedback of any kind or sharing of the show. It means a lot to me and it makes a big difference. So, thanks as always for tuning in, guys, and I will talk to all of you next week.